Approaching the beginning of the week for the Southeast, I'm sure many of you guys are wondering if we're going to see a significant severe weather threat over the next few days. And based on what we're seeing from the Storm Prediction Center, it seems likely we're going to see a pretty significant severe weather threat. This is a Monday time frame. We clearly see a large area of southern Oklahoma extending into the northern central portion of Texas. Has a slight risk of severe weather, and a slight risk, I'll say, is more of a moderate risk in this case, as it seems like there's going to be plenty of instability right over Texas for many clusters of thunderstorms to develop. And we do have an enhanced risk of severe weather just to the west of Dallas and Dallas-Fort Worth. You guys seem to be right up along the border between the enhanced risk of severe weather to a slight risk of severe weather. So you need to be prepared for the worst. And in case you're wondering what are the type of impacts you should see if you were to see a severe thunderstorm move through your area, well, the biggest threat will be hail, as there's a pretty high chance of hail associated with these severe thunderstorms that should develop as we approach the Monday afternoon to Monday evening time frame, where we do see a relatively high 30% chance of hail receiving hail over that area of Texas, and we have a smaller 15% chance just outside of it, but certainly something you want to be aware of, especially during your Monday evening commute. And then taking a look at the wind risk, there certainly could be a risk when it comes to damaging winds as well. I'll say wind gusts anywhere between 60 to 70 miles per hour in some of these thunderstorms. The chance won't be as high as hail, but it's certainly there's certainly gonna be likely damaging winds associated with these thunderstorms if you were to experience that in northern Texas and northern Louisiana. And then when it comes to tornado risk, it seems smaller, at least for the Monday time frame, as there isn't a lot of wind shear right over Texas for the tornado threat to be very high. So I'll say there's a fairly low risk of a tornado developing associated with this severe weather threat, but that's not the only day we're expected to receive severe weather. The Tuesday timeframe, we see that the area of the slight risk is a little bit larger than yesterday, where this includes Louisiana, and now this includes the areas further southward like Houston, extending into San Antonio and Austin as well, could get involved with some severe weather. And of course, it also extends into northern Texas. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the risk does rise, because based on what I'm seeing with the computer models, which I'm going to show you guys right now, you're going to see that the convective available potential energy levels will be just as high, if not a little bit higher, than we saw compared to the Monday time frame. So this is how the convective available potential energy looks as of Monday morning. We clearly see that there is a decent amount, especially right over eastern Texas. But going into Tuesday, we see that the area of convective available potential energy is certainly larger. We see larger values where it's hovering right around nearly 3,000 joules per kilogram when it comes to the amount of available potential energy. So that's just a strong amount of lift that's going on. That's definitely capable of producing severe weather. So I wouldn't be surprised if the risk rises from a slight chance of severe weather over Texas to maybe more of an enhanced chance. The only reason why I think the Storm Prediction Center is a little bit more conservative with its forecast as of right now is because it's still a little bit more far out into the future, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that change as early as tomorrow for Texas and even the extending into the areas a little bit further westward. Going into Wednesday and Thursday, the risk of severe weather does exist those days as well, based on what the Storm Prediction Center is saying, where on Wednesday it should be right up along the Gulf Coast, and then it should move up along the southeast Atlantic coast by the Thursday timeframe. And while it's a bit too early to really say how significant or how impactful this severe weather threat will be, or how high the possibility of severe weather will be over those states, we could get a good indication of what to expect by taking a look at the computer models as of right now, which of course are bound to change, but it's definitely better to look at that to determine what type of chance you're going to see severe weather over those other southeast states a little bit later during the week. Let's take a look back at the surface-based convective available potential energy levels over the southeast. So this is a Tuesday time frame, and by the way, the higher the convective available potential energy, the more likely we're going to see severe weather, since a lot of available potential energy means that there's a strong enough amount of lift in the atmosphere to produce those severe thunderstorms, and to be able, and with so much lift that goes on in the thunderstorm, that allows the pressure to be very low along the surface, which means that the winds are bound to be a lot stronger when the lift is very strong, as well as the fact that a stronger amount of lift does produce larger hail clusters, since of course the updrafts could be sometimes so strong that it'll push the water droplets further higher into the atmosphere to where the temperatures are much colder, and that's how hail forms during severe thunderstorms. And so this is definitely a good indication of where we should, or at least a possibility we should expect severe weather over the next few days. And then headed into the Wednesday time frame, we clearly this in the very long term future, not this Wednesday I'm talking about. So this is a Wednesday time frame I'm talking about, and we do see there is a decent amount of convective available potential energy still. It will peak right around Monday and the Tuesday time frame, and then it should extend into Wednesday as well. But I'll say by Thursday time frame, the convective available potential energy levels will be well to the south of the United States by that point, and by the time it approaches the southeast, that's when it really we begin to see the instability reduce. And a big reason for that is that the Gulf of Mexico, as well as the Atlantic, it's still very early in the spring, so the water temperatures are still relatively cool relative to the air temperatures that were right over Texas, where of course it's a bit warmer over this area, thanks to the fact that it's over land. It's the cooler waters of the Atlantic aren't there to really stabilize the atmosphere in the southeast, so the instability would be a little bit stronger right over Texas, Louisiana, then a little bit further eastward close to the Atlantic. So as a result, we do see the convective available potential energy levels simmer down by the time we approach Thursday. So I do expect that the most of the severe weather will occur anywhere between the Monday and Wednesday time frame for the southeast. And for Wednesday, like the Storm Prediction Center forecasted, it should mainly focus right over Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. And with this much convective available potential energy levels, I'll say that the chance of severe weather will be relatively the same as what you were seeing right over Texas and Louisiana during the Monday and Tuesday time frame. Maybe a little bit less, thanks to the fact that I do expect the air to stabilize a bit more the further eastward this moves, but you still should be prepared for damaging winds and large hail as the primary threats associated with this potential severe weather threat by the time we approach Thursday. Let's take a look at what the GFS model is forecasting when it comes to the radar of this storm system as it continues to move further eastward. So this is how it looks. There is a pretty strong mid-latitude low that's located over the northern Midwest, but there is a small upper level low that you really can't see right over New Mexico that's expecting to move further eastward and encounter just enough cold air for severe thunderstorms to arise out of it, as we clearly see the heavy rainfall and the severe thunderstorms. And by the way, you need to be prepared for heavy rainfall. I'll go in detail with that in a little bit, just in a second, but definitely be prepared, especially right over Arkansas, extending into Memphis as well, as you definitely need to be prepared for the possibility of flash flooding in a lot of these areas, and the risk could rise even more thanks to the higher amount of instability it should see, at least early on. We're going to see a small trough that's going to come just south of the United States-Canadian border, and that should help the instability. It won't be hot enough necessarily to create those severe thunderstorms, but there will be enough instability for a lot of these clouds to be able to condense and produce a larger area of precipitation. Might not necessarily be as severe thanks to the cooler nature of this storm system by the time it moves further eastward, but it will produce a larger area of rainfall, which is why along the East Coast, the Southeast, and even the Northeast, you need to be aware of another possibility of heavy rainfall. And for many areas in the Northeast, I could relate to this in northern New Jersey. That's the last thing we need, because there's already a couple rivers in New Jersey that were already flooding. So to add even more rainfall on top of that with this storm system definitely is the last thing we need. So you need to be prepared for that possibility, and damaging winds could be an issue as well. Look at the millibar pressure of this storm system. It's hovering down to 980, so this is certainly a pressure that's low enough for the wind speed to be quite strong, as we do have a cool air intrusion on the backside, which should certainly help enhance winds right over the Northeast. So definitely be prepared for heavy rainfall and gusty winds by the time we approach the weekend, as I'll say the forecast is fairly certain at this point. Now, when taking a look at the forecasted rainfall, when it comes to what the GFS model is stating over the next few days, as the storm system continues to head further eastward, it does become concerning. Let me show you guys that right now. So here's what the GFS model is forecasting. We clearly see a large area of 2 to 5 inches of rain, and a little bit more than 5 inches of rain right over Arkansas, Memphis, extending into the northern portions of Alabama as well, and Mississippi, which definitely concerns me. And then a lot of rainfall as well is impacting much of the Ohio River Valley, where you could expect maybe 3 inches of rainfall over Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, extending into Pennsylvania, New York, and then even New England could get involved with 1 to 2 inches of rain. So definitely pay very close attention to the possibility of flooding as well. When it comes to a flash flood risk, you should expect a slight risk of flash flooding tomorrow. This includes northern Louisiana, northwestern Texas, and extending into the southern portion of Arkansas. So make sure to be aware of that slight risk of flash flooding, as the rainfall should be heavy at times, and it could fall at a very fast clip. However, I think Tuesday will be the most concerning day when it comes to a possibility of flash flooding, because not only is a slight risk a lot larger when it comes to a possibility of flash flooding, but now we have a high moderate risk of flash flooding over southern Arkansas, extending into northern Louisiana, as the rainfall should be a little bit more excessive, thanks to the fact that we're going to see a bit more instability from a trough moving southward from Canada, which should consolidate the rainfall a lot more for the flash flooding risk to be higher in some of these areas. So be prepared for that pretty much right up along the Mississippi River Valley. For the Wednesday time frame, the risk of flash flooding is slightly lower, thanks to the fact that, like I said, the air should stabilize a bit as it gets closer to the cooler Atlantic sea surface temperatures, but there still will be the risk right over Alabama, Georgia, extending into the panhandle of Florida as well. New Orleans and southern Louisiana could get involved, and most of Mississippi is under a slight risk of flash flooding during the Wednesday timeframe. So make sure to be prepared all over these areas. Now, of course, tomorrow is a big day for the United States, because it's the first total solar eclipse the United States is going to experience since 2017, and it'll be the last till 2024. There will be one a little bit more closer to the in the more near future, but that'll only be in Alaska. When it comes to lower 48, this will be the last solar eclipse till 2024. So I'm sure many of you guys are wondering, how will weather look like tomorrow, and will we see cloud cover that could potentially limit your possibility of seeing the solar eclipse? Well, taking a look at the forecast for Monday 9 a.m., we see that these areas right here, pretty much over the southeast, extending into Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, there should be a strong amount of cloud cover, and same goes for the southeastern portion of Texas. So unfortunately, over these areas, it's going to be difficult to be able to see the sun with this much cloud cover, and same goes for northern Midwest. However, where the total solar where the area of totality is extending just right over Texas and over this area. There is going to be a small area where the cloud cover will be relatively limited, so that's certainly good news for places like St. Louis, Oklahoma City, western Texas as well. And then for northeast, area of totality will move pretty much over the interior northeast, as it's going to be fairly difficult to forecast, as it should be partly cloudy, but we do have this small area of clouds that could move over Syracuse. So I think that the chances you're going to see the sun during this time is lower, unfortunately. But for a place like New York City, it's going to be more of a 50-50 chance, as the it's likely going to be partly cloudy around the time during once the solar eclipse does occur over the northeast. So definitely for the northern New England area, such as Maine, it should be fairly likely you're going to see be able to see the solar eclipse tomorrow without any cloud cover over it. And then for places like Chicago, Detroit, it should be fairly likely you're going to see a solar eclipse tomorrow, and same goes for Kansas City. So this map from AccuWeather does give a fairly reliable forecast when it comes to the amount of cloud cover or the risk of cloud cover over the United States by the time the solar eclipse does occur. And we do see for areas of Texas, unfortunately, the risk of cloud cover is going to be high. Dallas is right in between the moderate to high range, and then for the Ohio River Valley, it should be a moderate chance to maybe a low chance closer to Indiana. And then for the interior northeast, it should be a moderate chance for cities like New York, Philadelphia, as well as Albany, but unfortunately a higher chance over Buffalo and Syracuse, where the path of totality should be right over this area. But for northern New England, it should be a fairly low risk of cloud cover, which is certainly good news. But that's it for now, guys, and I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys all enjoy the solar eclipse tomorrow wherever you are in the United States.